That time, a local industry fought against efforts to clean up Bayou Chico because water capable of sustaining life was not in their interests. Hi, I'm Pensacola historian Joe Vinson. Bayou Chico is an estuary in West Pensacola that has been the home of lots of different industries over the years. One of the biggest was Newport Industries, a naval stores company that processed pine stumps, the remnants of the local timber industry, into turpentine, rosin, and pine oil. In 1916, when the city of Pensacola built a pipe that would dump Newport's wastewater into Bayou Chico, a newspaper article noted that, quote, a little opposition was offered by one or two families residing in the immediate vicinity, but it is promised that the water from the drain would not taint the headwaters of the bayou to any extent. Well, if it's promised, then. The wastewater, it turns out, did taint the bayou, but the Newport plant supported hundreds of local jobs even before later expansions, so there was no real pushback. Other companies came to Bayou Chico with a symbiotic relationship with Newport. Starting in 1928, Armstrong Cork found that they could turn leftover pine pulp, or spent wood, into fiberboard insulation and other building materials, and they built a facility next to Newport just for that purpose. In 1933, the Weis-Fricker Mahogany Company, reincorporated from the earlier Weiss-Patterson Lumber Company after the local cypress trees were exhausted, found that Bayou Chico was uniquely suited to store mahogany logs shipped from South and Central America, for reasons I'll get to in a minute. And in 1939, the Strook and Wittenberg Company, later Ashland Chemical, opened a synthetic resin plant that used raw materials from Newport. But all this industry, plus runoff and sewage from residential developments, was taking a heavy toll on the environment. The factory furnaces produced smoke that contaminated the air and blanketed the area with soot. Wood particulates from the Newport effluent covered the bayou floor with a thick, gummy sludge that altered the natural tidal flushing and required regular dredging. Excess nitrogen and phosphates triggered algae blooms that depleted oxygen in the water, causing massive fish kills of menhaden and other species. People started calling it Bayou Stinko, with one resident saying it is no more than a big open cesspool. In the mid-50s, neighbors formed the Bayou Chico Improvement Association, calling its present condition a disgrace to the entire Pensacola area. A 1955 report by the State Health Department concluded that, quote, the only satisfactory solution to the nuisance problems is for the industrial plants to remove all the suspended solids and the bulk of organic solids prior to discharging the effluent into Bayou Chico. The loudest voice protesting cleanup wasn't Newport or Armstrong, but Weis-Fricker, which claimed that the Newport pollution was keeping the teredo worm, also called shipworms, actually a kind of mollusk, from infesting their mahogany logs. Quote, we have been in business there for 34 years, and the polluted water is necessary for our continuing in business. The Improvement Association went to court to prevent the companies from dumping, quote, deleterious wastes into the bayou, and they won. After the mandated regulations took effect, water quality in Bayou Chico improved, but Weis-Fricker claimed in 1962 that the bayou was now too clean. They announced they had discovered teredo worms in their mahogany, threatening the roughly 15,000 logs, more than 2 million feet, being stored in the bayou. The company asked Florida Governor Ferris Bryant to let Newport again release untreated waste into the bayou, threatening to move their operation to Mobile if it didn't happen. Hundreds of residents opposed the request, but weighing both sides, the Pensacola City Council and Chamber of Commerce both backed Weis-Fricker, citing the risk of losing those local jobs. The Escambia County Commission opposed going back to the untreated effluent. Ultimately, the state said Weis-Fricker needed a long-term solution that didn't require intentionally poisoning the bayou. Newport was found to have been violating the regulations on their effluent anyway, though they claimed at one point that, quote, our outfall in the bay is like drinking water. Weis-Fricker didn't end up moving to Alabama, but after years in decline, they quietly went out of business in 1979. Newport changed ownership many times, becoming a division of Tenneco, then Reichhold, then finally Pollant. It shut down earlier this year, in fact. Bayou Chico has continued to struggle with the long-term effects of the industrial waste and the continued stormwater runoff, but it's much better now than when fish kills were a regular summer occurrence. I think this story is just a fascinating example of how some companies will be perfectly happy to pollute the environment to the point of being incompatible with simple life forms if it means they can extract more profit. And the efforts of the Bayou Chico Improvement Association remind me of the famous quote by Margaret Mead, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. Thanks for watching, and let me know in the comments what topic I should cover next.